Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scout Selections here for Monday, June 17th. Before we get into the play of the day, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. We did not have any plays of the day. However, all of our main leans ended up winning, as we recommended the Red Sox -1.5. They ended up winning by 2 runs. We recommended the Indians -1.5. They ended up winning by about 8 runs or so. Pretty good day for the leans, but nothing counts towards the personal record. But with that being said, we will be resuming the plays of the day today. And I know this video is coming out at 3 o'clock, but the game we are looking at in question will be taking place roughly 10:10 Eastern Time. So you don't have to worry about rushing to get this one in. And the matchup we're going to be looking at is between the Milwaukee Brewers and the San Diego Padres. And in that matchup, you have Chacin versus Lucchesi. Chacin hasn't pitched in roughly 2.5 weeks after being on the IL, but he was awful before he ended up going on the injured list, as he is only 3-7 with a 5.74 ERA after such a fantastic season last year. To make matters worse, he's also awful on the road, as he is 1-6 with a 7.39 ERA on the road, and he's also poor in night games, as he is 2-4 with a 4.35 ERA. So we don't like him pitching in this one. Lucchesi has been pretty solid this season, but we still like the Brewers lineup. The play of the day will be on the over 8, which is available at -105 at Heritage. I think there's a lot of value on that one. Lucchesi has been solid this season, especially at home, where he's 5-2 with a 3.11 ERA. But there's also kind of a fade of the Padres bullpen in this one. They just had one of the most entertaining 4-game series against the Rockies, in which they won 2 separate games after trailing by at least 3 runs in the 9th inning. However, they also gave up at least 8 runs in every single game of that series, and the starting pitching yesterday only went a solid. Let me see exactly. Yeah, their starting pitcher in Margevicius went a solid 1 1/3 innings. So they had to end up using a ton of relievers. They used 6 relievers, including their closer, Kirby Yates. So in that one, I expect to see a decent amount of just the Padres trying to scramble to find pitchers. I know they called up a couple of AAA relievers to try to add to the depth of the bullpen, but if Lucchesi is only able to go through roughly 5 or 6 innings, which I expect him to do, then I expect the last 3 innings to be absolute chaos for the Padres, as they'll continue calling up AAA people as well as average to below average relievers to try to compensate for the amount of relievers they ended up using over the course of the weekend stretch, as pretty much no starting pitcher in that entire series went more than 4 innings. So I expect that to be pretty crazy. And with the Brewers, they didn't play that well over the weekend against the Giants. Chacin's coming off the IL, so you don't really know what to expect from him. The Padres have hit him well historically, and he's also in the middle of a terrible year in which he is awful on the road. The Padres' offense has looked great over the last couple of weeks itself. I know they ended up getting Machado. It hasn't even really been him. Tatis has been fantastic. Hosmer's been very good. Renfroe went off in that Colorado series. Well, Myers is always a threat to go along. I simply just like their lineup. And the Brewers against lefties have been decent this season. And Lucchesi's been pretty good. I expect Lucchesi to go roughly 5 or 6 innings, giving up 2 or 3 earned runs. But I think that bullpen is a potential Pandora's box. And I think that if the Brewers can force Lucchesi out of the game in the 5th or 6th inning, you can see some potential fireworks late in this game. In terms of the side, I'd lean to the Padres, but the bullpen in question is very dangerous. And for me, I would have to lean to the over 8 with a potential push draw at -105 on Heritage. And that will be your play of the day. But we'll go back to the rest of the MLB card. First game is between the Phillies and the Nationals, with Arrieta versus Corbin. Totals been bet up from 9 to 10. Money's coming on the Nationals, -135 up to roughly -145. For me, I have to take Arrieta and the Phillies here. Simply put, Corbin's a very solid pitcher, but there's no way the Nationals should be a -145 favorite. Over the weekend, they did not look impressive against the Diamondbacks. I know they ended up winning Scherzer's start, and Strasburg was awful in his start, but the Diamondbacks did hit well. The Nationals' bullpen is still a mess. Phillies haven't looked amazing lately, especially after their series against the Braves. They didn't look good. But at the same point, I do like Arrieta. I don't think he should be roughly a +130 or so. I simply just don't like those odds for the Nationals. Lean to the Phillies in that one. Moving on, you have the Yankees versus the Rays with Tanaka versus Chirinos. Yankees made some news over the weekend as they were able to split with the White Sox and they were able to acquire Edwin Encarnacion. So now they have about 45 DHs. I have no idea where he's going to play. He should probably be playing at some point just to add a little spark to the lineup. But in terms of Tanaka versus Chirinos, I'd have to lean to the under 9. Tanaka's had multiple starts against the Rays this season. He has pitched relatively well in those starts. And Chirinos has been very solid this season as as after the opener, he is going to be starting this game. Yeah, Terry said tough loss yesterday. I didn't have a play of the day yesterday, so I'm not really sure which game you were referring to. But, Auburn. Yeah, that was kind of brutal for you. If you're rooting for the Auburn Tigers, that was definitely a choke job. The funniest part of that for me was the third baseman not deciding to tag the runner that was directly in front of him just so he could airmail that throw to first base in the ninth inning. That was definitely a brutal loss for the Auburn Tigers there. They're not eliminated, though, but that was, if you have not seen that, I recommend looking that up, as that was definitely one of the more entertaining finishes of the College Baseball World Series. But I'm going to go back into the card here. So I'm going to lean to the under 9 in Tanaka versus Chirinos. I think both pitchers will pitch relatively well. The Yankees lineup has looked better lately than the Rays lineup, so I would lean to the Yankees. But Tanaka's been a little bit of a question mark. I think he'll pitch well in this one, so I'll lean to the under 9. Moving on, you have Edwin Jackson versus Garcia with the Angels versus the Blue Jays. Blue Jays finally were able to avoid a sweep against the Astros as they ended up doing really well offensively yesterday. But in terms of this game, I know money's on the Angels. I'd have to lean to the over 11. Angels' lineups look very good, especially with Ohtani back. Toronto's lineup has been hit or miss. Mostly miss, but they are coming off of a high note against the Astros yesterday. I don't like either pitcher. I don't like either bullpen. Both lineups are okay, especially with Guerrero in the lineup. Lean to the over 11 in that one. Moving on, you have the Reds versus the Astros with Castillo versus Miley. Castillo is absolutely fantastic, but at the same point, he is on the Reds, and Miley's been pretty good this season. I know the Reds were able to avoid a sweep as they dominated the Rangers yesterday. But for me, I'm going to have to lean to Houston here. Simply put, I don't see how a team like the Reds can be a minus 121 favorite. I know that it's all because of Castillo, but at the same point, if Castillo gives you 7 innings and you're in a tie game, I don't trust the Reds bullpen. I don't know about you, and I definitely like the Astros lineup more than the Reds lineup, so I will lean to the Astros on that money line. Moving on, you have the Mets versus the Braves. I have to lean to the over 9 here. Soroka's been great. Wheeler is not, but the Braves' lineup has been so good, and their games have flown over totals over the last week or so. I think 9 is too low. I think Wheeler will get roughed up. I'll lean to the over in the Braves team total, and I'll lean to the over in the full game. I think that this game should have at least double-digit runs, so I think 9 is too low. Lean to the over there. Moving on, you have the Indians versus the Rangers with Lynn versus Clevenger. I will lean to the Rangers here. I know that Clevenger is a very solid pitcher. He also hasn't pitched since roughly April, and you have to wonder how he's going to do in his first MLB start in roughly 3 months. Lynn, on the other hand, underrated. 7-4. He's definitely had a solid year for somebody who looked very inconsistent with the Yankees last season. But the Rangers are also 24-12 at home. They're a very solid home team. The Indians are 1 game over 500 on the road. So I simply just don't really like them in the spot. I'll lean to the Rangers here. I like the way that they've been playing. Lean to the Rangers. Moving on, you have the Twins versus the Red Sox with Porcello versus Berrios. Red Sox were able to beat up on the Orioles, kind of. 2 of their wins ended up coming in extra innings, but they were able to pull those out. Red Sox have definitely not looked that great over the course of the season. I don't know if it's a World Series hangover or just a matter of really, really bad pitching. But at the same point, I'd have to lean to Minnesota here. Porcello's looked better over the last month, but Berrios is by far the ace of the Twins staff. He was supposed to be at least, and then Odorizzi's had a fantastic year. But overall, Berrios is definitely a better pitcher than Porcello, and the Twins lineup's definitely better than the Red Sox lineup at this point in time. And they have the better bullpen, so I'd lean to the Twins in that one. Moving on, you have the Marlins versus the Cardinals with Mikolas versus Hernandez. I'd lean to the under 8 here. Hernandez looked okay in his first start, not great. Mikolas has definitely looked a lot better over the last month than he did in the beginning of the season. And the Marlins, as we all know, cannot hit. So I will lean to the under 8 in that one. Moving on, you have Oakland versus Baltimore. I lean to the over 8.5. You have Fiers versus Cashner. Both pitchers have been very inconsistent. Besides the Fiers, a no-hitter this year has been pretty terrible. And both the lineups have actually looked okay over the last month or so. Oakland has a good lineup. We already knew that. Baltimore's lineup looked decent over the weekend against Boston. I lean to the over 8.5. I think that total's too low. I think one of the two pitchers will get rocked, and I think that you should see at least 9 or 10 runs in this game. Lean to the over there. Moving on, you have the Mariners versus the Royals with Malone versus Duffy. I lean to the over 8.5 there. Duffy's been very inconsistent. Malone has been okay, but overall, he doesn't have very dynamic much. He doesn't have a lot of dynamic pitches. So for me, I think both lineups will do pretty well. The Mariners will be without Edwin Encarnacion, who's leading the AL in home runs because he's been traded. So keep that in mind moving forward. But at the same point, I still like the over with the Mariners and the really terrible bullpen. Lean to the over, and I'll lean to the Royals team total over to get to Malone and to get to the Mariners bullpen. So I'll lean to those two overs. Moving on, you have the Brewers versus the Padres. We already went into that one. And you also have the Giants versus the Dodgers. I lean to the over 8.5 here. I like the way the Giants played over the weekend. They weren't able to sweep, but they have looked a lot better, especially since Yastrzemski's been called up from the minors. He's actually looked really solid in left field as well as being at the plate. And the Dodgers were able to win 2 out of 3 against the Cubs. Maeda's pretty solid, but Beatty is awful for the Giants, and I could definitely see the Dodgers scoring at least 6 runs. I'll lean to the over in that one. But the play of the day, as I said before, will be on the Milwaukee Brewers and the San Diego Padres over 8, which is available at -105 on Heritage. And with that being said, quick reminder of our sponsor at PointsBet, online sportsbook in New Jersey. A couple of great deals for you, a couple of promos, which we will link in the description below. But they also have up to 2 risk-free bets of up to $1,000. So if you end up betting $1,000, for example, Terry, on the Auburn game yesterday, and you saw your team blow a 3-run lead in the 9th inning, then you get your money back, and you could simply bet on them in the elimination game, if that's what you wanted to do. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here for Monday, June 17th. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.